This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, Sarisa is missing today. Maybe she's not well. We can start our class. So guys, have you completed the exception and to-do list assignment? Okay, I'll check Rajita's mail. Rajita, Sam, and Sirisha mailed me. Tell you what happened. I didn't get any mail from you. It's okay. So guys, you have any doubts on the assignment? Do we have to discuss on that? Okay. So I hope to-do list was easy. It was just accessing the list. Let's see how I did the exception for file handling. Okay. So I know there are few errors in file handling because I have faced it in the past. The most of the error would be if input file does not exist or IO error occurred while it is reading and writing. Data processing and sometimes access. So these are the file not found, IO error, and permission error. These I have seen in the past. So if in case you don't know what are the error that might occur for that particular scenario, for example, you will not know if in case you do not know what all the error you might see with the list, then you can go with this statement. This one statement will be handling. If I remove from line number 11 to 16, this statement will anyway handle all these error, right? So I am telling exception as E, so I'm catching all the exception which is going to occur while I run this process, this Python code. And we are going to tell an unexpected error occurred, and we are going to print the error message because we are capturing that error exception as E, and we will be printing. In case if it's a permission error, then you will be printing permission error, and you do not have whatever the description the permission error you should give inside Python, you are going to print it out here, right? So this one statement is going to handle everything. Since I know these two errors, I've faced this in the past, I've added it. And again, um, so the main thing which I expect you guys to understand is where to put try and what to add inside try, and when to add except, where to add except in your code, and finally, where to add finally. So here I have two blocks. One is I have a function, and here I'm calling a function, right? So here I'm just giving what is my input file and what is my output file in my from my local, and I'm trying to process it. I'm just calling this function process user data, and later I'll be giving some output to the user. So I'm having one more try block here. So here we have two different try block because we cannot put everything in one single try block, right? This is a different block and this is different block. So indentation level one, we have two things. One is def, another is if. I mean, the main, you need not have this if line. We can directly call this, but we have two blocks. I just wanted to show that we have two blocks. Yeah, I have one more try and except, and I can add finally here as well. So why I have mentioned exception at the end? Because I know only one error, keyboard interrupt error. If there is any other exception going to occur, which I'm not able to forecast now, I'll be adding it as an exception. Is it clear? Okay. So Rajita, Sirisha, and Sam had already completed the assignment. But still, I just wanted to tell that if you are not aware of this any of this error, you can just add this one except that is going to handle everything. If in case you want to additionally add some more exception, for example, we have seen, right? We were seeing some program called calculating the discount. Logically, it is working. I mean, syntactically, everything is correct. It is going to process and show the output. But logically, a discount cannot be more than one. Zero, it should be 0 to 1. So in that case, we are raising our own exception, telling that there is an error occurred, you shouldn't be giving this number. Only in that case you can add a new exception according to your logic. Otherwise, this single statement is going to handle everything. Every other Python inbuilt error or exception, this will be handling everything. Shall we move on to next topic? So now we have first we started with oops, class and method, how to, what is class, what is polymorphism, what is inheritance, and how to load one module, one Python into another Python. And there is no much thing about this input. You just have to understand the input and from statement, how to write your input and from. And I also show that we can call another function into your function. And yeah, I would upload. Maybe I'll zip and send it to Anita or one of you, or I can mail everybody also. Mm, yeah, then we saw input. We have seen whatever we need to know about input package module, and not much assignment is needed on that, or much practice is needed on that because it's a very simple, straightforward topic. Then we saw exception handling. I'm sure you're pretty good with handling the exception which is thrown by Python and write your own exception and you try, accept, and finally blocks. Then we also saw what is unit testing. That I felt it was little hard to understand that. We will go over that today. And it is also not much important topic compared to exception handling or oops or import statement. It is better to know that there is something called PyTest in Python, which will help you to write your test cases. And after that, we will see a project in OOPS, which is very much needed. We need more hands-on over OOPS. We have to see multiple project, multiple assignment to get a strong understanding on OOPS. I was explaining day before yesterday, I was explaining what is asset. So are you guys clear with this asset? How to write asset, a logic, some validation expression, and then the assert error message. Did you guys understand the statement assert?
Not that clear.
Okay. So did you guys understand why we are using, why we are talking about unit test? That part did you understand? That we are going to validate, yeah. So multiple time what we will do usually when we run some program, we will give two or three valid input and see how if the output is good and what is the output, and two or three negative input and see if it is handled properly. The same thing the tester in any company would do, but it will be more sophisticated. It will have multiple test cases. So what he would do, the tester, he will write all his test cases as a Python file which he can execute later anytime. Because every week there would be a situation that every week he has to run the same test cases again and again. So what he will do, instead of manually running everything, he will write a Python code, he will trigger it, which will help him to reduce manual work. So coming to, so this assert is very important in the Python, creating your test cases in Python as a Python tester. So let's go through asset. What is asset? Okay. We saw that assert is a statement. It's not a function. It's not a method. It's a statement like if condition. Okay. So the general format is this assert, your expression, some validation expression, right? Which will return boolean, right? If condition, whatever expression you give, if condition greater than equal to or equal to, you're going to compare. So most usually you will be comparing it. The output of comparison is always boolean, right? So this will be giving you boolean true or false. If the condition is false, if this is false, it is going to raise an assertion error. And if you want, you can give your own message here. Otherwise, a usual assertion error it will be raised, like how zero by division error, something like that. Assertion error is there. It will be shown in the, it will be given in the output, and you can also define your own message. Okay, so this is how assertion expression looks like. So apart from writing your own test cases using PyTest. We can use assertion in two different scenario. It is for debugging purpose. Assert statement is always used for debugging and testing purpose. For example, your tester will be running multiple test cases against your code, but as a developer, you will be at least uh, testing it for one or two input because you wanted to know whether you have written the right logic and your logic is working. In order to understand if your code is working, you have to do one or two test cases, not elaborate 10 to 15 test cases, right? So in that case, sometimes we use this assertion to know if it is working, and also debugging purpose. I have written a lengthy code and somewhere it is failing. I am not really sure where it is failing. Sometimes I'll write print multiple print statement to know if it is going inside every block. And sometimes the value, the output which I am expecting might not be the same. So I'll be writing some assertion wherever it is possible for me to identify my error uh, for debugging purpose. So uh, here we are testing our we also use assertion as a precondition that see this condition must satisfy, otherwise don't run this code. If some code is having precondition, for example, the user should have admin access, otherwise don't let them to use open this website, something like that. If you know there are some precondition, in that case we also go for assertion, assert statement. Okay, so assert is used for debugging, testing, and having a precondition. Here, I'm going to divide A and B. I'm pretty sure that B shouldn't be 0 because we are very familiar with 0 by division error. We can use try, catch, and handle the exception. But instead of that, here what I'm feeling, if it is 0, then don't do this logic at all. Go to the next block, something else in the code. So here this is a precondition. I'm telling assert B is not equal to 0. If it is true, it means B is not 0. It is having some other number, 1, 2, or 3. In that case, if it is true, it goes and runs the next statement, it goes on. Otherwise, it prints this error and it terminates. So if it is false, that is here B is not equal to 0. If B is 0, then this will be false, right? Because I'm telling it shouldn't be 0, but if B is 0, this will turn false. Give me false when I evaluate this. In that case, it will be throwing me this error. Let me save this and run. So here I have to call this. So here it's throwing an error that denominator must not be 0. Right? Whatever message I have given here, it is throwing me that the denominator must not be 0. So here it is giving me 0.5 as an output. So I've added this as a precondition. And the next scenario what we saw was this. So here my discount, the value discount shouldn't be less than 1. Because if it is 1, then the price will turn 0 because 1 minus 1 is 0, 0 multiplied by price is 0, right? Again. So I'm having a condition that the discount should be between 0 to 1. And here I'm just calling this function with value 1, which is not acceptable because it should be lesser than 1. So let me save this. Again, you saw a session error. Discount should be between 0 and 1. If I don't have this assert statement, what will happen? The price after discount is 0. It is going to give me some wrong output. I mean, nobody can buy something with the price 0, right? If my e-commerce website it is showing that the after discount the price is 0, everybody will be buying that, right? Which would be a huge loss for me. So instead of that, if it is going to throw an error, right? So it is throwing me an error. Is it clear, Rachita? Tam, Sam, silly,
Yes.
dilly.
Like assert is something like checking, right?
Yeah.
Checking that statement is true, you should go into the next block.
hmm Yeah. Otherwise, it is
Okay.
going to throw an error and stop your program.
Terminate.
Mhm. If you are using if condition here, the same can be done via if condition. You can have an expression inside if and you can give else, but it's not going to terminate your program, right? It is not going to throw an error. If you want to terminate your program and throw an error, then you can go for asset.
Okay.
Clear? Shall we move ahead? Okay. So this is we have seen from developer perspective, but truly developer will not mostly use this assert statement. Only in rare scenario we have this assert statement while developing. But tester they have to use assert statement. We will see the assert from tester's perspective. Control slash. So if you're a Python automation tester, then you should be using PyTest, which is a framework available inside Python, um, which is used for testing. There are multiple other framework. If you had gone through web scraping, you would have seen there are frame like some videos would have been using Beautiful Soup as a framework and Scrappy. There are multiple frameworks which will do the same work. Each will have its own pros and cons. It depends on your scenario. You can go for which. I mean, if that particular framework is providing all the solution you are expecting, then you can go for that. We have multiple other frameworks, but so far PyTest is a popular framework and it has everything a Python tester needs. Um, So I'll be explaining this. So any Python tester who is going to write their test cases, they have to import this. This is a framework, library kind of thing inside Python developed. It is open source. It's not actually developed by Python. It is developed by some third party using Python. They have integrated it to Python. So we have to. What I have to do if I'm in VS Code, I have to go and install PyTest, and here I have to give pip command. 1 minute. I hope I have already shown that pip install pytest is a command and you can later verify it by running py.test. Let me exit this. If py.test is already available in my uh, system, then it will give me a help manual for that. Hyphen H is to show the help manual for whatever we are giving before. So let's see. So it is giving all the help manual. how to use PyTest. So initially I have to install import, like we input random library into our Python, and later I can, here I have my function add. So I'm going to test this function, and I have defined one more function to test this add function, and here I have multiple test cases. So I'm expecting if I give 1 and 2, my output should be 3. Because what the tester does, he knows how it should behave. Because while before the developer codes particular logic, there would be some call where they will be discussing what is the project is about, what is the requirement, why they are developing that project, all those things the tester would have got, all the document, what it is expected from the client, how they are going to design, everything will be discussed beforehand, right? So the developer will have an idea, sorry, the tester will have an idea what we have to develop and how the output should look like. So he knows that add is for adding two numbers, and he's expecting if it is 1 and 2, the output should be 3. And if it is 0 and minus 1, it should be minus 1, and minus 1 and minus 1, it should be 0. So now this function may not be developed by the tester, right? This was developed by some developer, and now the tester is writing this function just to verify the output, and he has to import the PyTest. So let me say this. So a little different thing here is usually when we run Python, what will happen in the background is Python space your file name. That's how we are running the Python. But now for PyTest, I have to give PyTest space my file name asset.py. So it is little different in the way you run. You have to tell that this is a PyTest module and I want to run like this. Okay. So in previous example, we have seen when we give assert, it is directly going to throw an error. But now you would see for this particular, we have three test cases, right? Three case we have written. So it is clearly telling. Let me clear. Okay. So it is telling asset.py, it failed. The first thing what you have to do is you can ignore this. It is just telling when the test session start. So you will know the detail. So it started, and here it is telling the test case failed. Let's see in detail. 100% failed. It is telling 100% failed. So sorry, it is not 100%. So here it is telling which case it failed. You see -2 is equal to 0. Okay, so here you see if I give -1 plus -1, the answer is output is -2, right? Not 0. Only if I give here -1 minus -1, which will turn plus, then it will be 0, right? Here my answer should be -2. The correct answer should be -2. Here I have made a mistake, so it is failing this case. This particular test case, it's showing as failing. So it is telling in this file, in this function test.add, this particular assert statement is failing. -2 is equal to 0. So clearly it is telling assert -2 is equal to 0 for this particular condition. When you call -1 -1, the output, exact output given by the function is -2, but you have 0 in your assert statement. So this particular thing is failing. So it is telling one failed. Shortest summary test summary info is this particular -2, this one failed in this function, this code in this function, this one failed and one case failed. Okay. Let me correct this. This actually a tester's mistake. He didn't understand the functionality properly or something. When he report this error to developer, developer might clarify. See, this is my program is running, giving the correct output, but you have given the wrong test case. I mean test case output. So let me do one thing. I have changed it to -2. Clear. So here it's telling here we before we saw F hyphen F, right, in red color. Now you see dot. Dot means it is all pass green, and it says one passed. So actually everything is passed. One passed, one is nothing but one function. We have only one test function here inside it. It's passed. Okay. Clear? Let me give wrong output everywhere. Here, let me give -3, and here, let me give +1, and let me give +2. Let me save this file. So since it saw the first one is failed, add 1, 2, it is not proceeding, it is telling that it's failed. It's saying that assertion error, and it got failed. So let me show you another example. Here I have written the function also here and the test case also here. In real time, it will be little different. So we have written this, we have seen this program, right, to find a common element between two lists. Here I'm just commenting out the print statement because I don't want the result to be printed. I just want to see only my test case output. So here we are finding a common element between two lists. And this common element list is a file name. I have written one more file with my test case. So my module is a folder where the common element list is placed. So I'm giving my from my module common list input find common. Find common is my function. I've given this, and as usual, I have to for my test case I have to input PyTest, and I'm just creating a new function test common elements, and there are three input. One is because two should be the usual input for this find common. I have to pass A and B for find common, input A and input B, and then the expected output. So that instead of hard coding here we have seen that we have directly giving the input here and output here. Instead of directly giving, I am creating one more line. This we will see. But are you clear with statement one, line number 1 and 2, and line number 5 to 7? Did you guys understand these three lines and also these two lines? Rajita, Tilly, Sam. Sam, are you there? Okay. So I can call this, I have to call this function, right? In order to execute this function, we just have defined, we are not calling it. I have to call this and I have to give three kind of input. which is input A, B, and the expected output. So instead of calling this function, there is one thing called something there inside PyTest that is called parameterize. Okay, so it's a variable, parameterize is a variable, and here mark is a constant, and PyTest is a module. It's a folder which has multiple other functions written inside it. So for now, you have to just remember that you have to write like this and at pytest dot mark that parameterizer. I will later, there is a separate topic for this, why we use at symbol here, and this we will see later. So something like that. In this module, call this and call this parameterize. So how this parameterize is working, this you have to by heart. And how this parameterize is, you have to pass the input. It's of two input, one is A and the other is B. The first one is going to tell how many inputs you are going to pass to the common elements, input A, input B, and input unexpected. Okay, and it is going to tell, and in here in the second parameter it will be a list. Inside list I have two test cases. See here one tuple symbol, open bracket, close bracket, and also open bracket, close bracket, right? So here this is input set 1, first input set. This is input set 2. We have two set of input. I'm just telling, see, for these three variable, I'm going to give the value later. So I'm just going to define my variable in double quotes, then all the values. Since I have two set of, if I don't have this second test case, I can remove it. So it will look like this. This open bracket is for this open bracket, and here we inside the list, I mean inside the square bracket, we are going to pass our input. So it will be, the square bracket is for the whole second parameter. This is first parameter, right? The first parameter is what? All the variable name. The second parameter is always comes in this square bracket. And inside it, if I have curve bracket, it tells that it is a test case 1. Okay, so this is test case 1. If I have one more test case, then I can give comma, separated by comma, and I can give my second test case. So this curve bracket, I mean this curve bracket is for test case 2. And here I'm just passing value for input A. Input A is a list. In this condition, in the situation, it is a list. Input B is a list, and output is also a list. If it is an integer, you can directly give an integer, something like that. If it is an integer, you can give for add, you can give 1, comma 2, comma 3. So if I add 1 and 2, my output should be 3, something like that. But here, in my case, it is a list, so I'm passing 3 different lists. And again, for test case 2, I have 3 different lists. Now the line number 4 is clear. Okay. So the main reason for this, why I'm not calling this function, I can do this way also. I can give input, I can pass my input, and if I want test case 2, I can do like this. But why we have this common thing is, there is something called DRY, which means don't repeat yourself. Okay. So if in case I'm having multiple functions inside this file, here in this scenario, we have only one function called find common. For example, consider there is a calculator program. Let me find where the calculator program is. Okay. So here I have multiple functions, right? And I also have mul I have all functions as having only two inputs. So it is like two integer will be the input and output will be one integer, right? A, B, and output will be always C. All three are integer. So if I have this, if I have this input A, B, and expected, in that case, what I can do is um, ignore expected. If I have input A and B, what I can do is I can let me show like this. Here it would be A and B. If you are in case testing your calculator program. Okay, so if I'm testing a calculator program, so in that case, what happens? This A and B will be passed to all the functions, not just the find common. Here it will be passed to add, sub, multiplication, division. If I write like this, for example, if I write test common elements, then in our calculator case, it would look like this, right? Test underscore add, because I'd be writing one function for testing the add, and I will also write one function for testing subtract, right? And then test and underscore divide. Here, if I want to pass three test case, I have to write like this. This will have one set of input, this will have another set, this will have another set, and similarly, I have to pass like this, right? So here what happens, I have to see how many statements we have written. But if you have this one statement, it is telling that this is common for all the function written in this file. If in case you can, you have a common number of parameter and you can pass it for all the functions available inside the code, like in case of calculator, then this will help you to pass input A and B to all your functions defined in the program. That is why we are going for this PyTest mark parameterize. This is a parameter which will be passed to all your, here we have only one function. If in case we are having multiple function, it will be passed to all your functions. Clear why we are going for this PyTest? So now let's run this. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3 and 3, 4, 5. The common is 3, and here actually the common should be, since we are not removing the element from B, the common will be written like this by the program, but I'm giving this, let's see. Okay, it is telling one failed, one passed. Okay, one is failed and one is passed. What is failed? Assert this one, where you are expecting 1 to 2, 1 to 1, but the original output by the given by the program is this, so it's failed. Correct. Let me go and change the logic. So in this case, the tester goes and reports the error. Then the developer understand what he does. He puts the same input for his program and see if it is giving the same output. It would give the same output. So he will go and see the logic and fix it. So now the developer has fixed. The tester will be informed that it is fixed. Then he will rerun his test. You just have to call the file, that's all. So in this case, it is passed, two passed. Clear? Cool. So that's all about PyTest I want to tell. We need not go in depth into this topic unless until you want to become a tester. My motto is to make all non-coding background to a coding background and become a developer. You just have to know what is PyTest. That's all. So, but we have to become more strong in OOPS concept and exception handling. I hope exception handling you're already strong. There is nothing else in depth. We have to go for exception handling or package and module. So tomorrow we will see a game written in OOPS. I mean, using OOPS concept, we will design a game for mm, card game where you have king, jack, ass, right, ace. So that we will see tomorrow. We will design a game using OOPS. But apart from that, we are good with Python. If I start the game now, no, start coding the game, it will 10 minutes or 1 hour won't be enough. So I don't want to start that today. We'll see tomorrow. We will start designing our game tomorrow, step by step. Now I'll compress this. If you don't have any doubts or question, we can wind up the session here.
We
I
have
don't know. I have contacted Divya. She sometime back she mentioned that she couldn't attend the class because she was ill. After that, I contacted her.